First on the agenda tonight is this thing you may have heard about. It's called critical race theory. People have been talking about this topic. I've seen people debate this topic. I've seen this topic flood Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I got a little clip I want to play to kind of introduce this to folks, bring them up to speed on it. Well, I'll see you on the other side.
Just because I do not want critical race theory taught to my children in school does not mean that I'm a racist, damn it.
School children across the country are caught in the crosshairs of a political battle over how race is taught in American schools.
Why wouldn't you include a diversity of people to talk about race? That just baffles my mind.
After last summer's nationwide protests against racism and police brutality, conservatives began waging their own battle over American history and an academic theory called critical race theory.
Critical race theory is an academic concept developed by legal scholars Derek Bell, Kimberly Crenshaw, and others in the 1970s and 80s. And it states that race and racism are a big part of American history and are still embedded in our institutions, in our law, in our public policy, and still affect the outcomes and life outcomes of Black Americans and other people of color.
Decades after the relatively obscure idea was coined, GOP political figures have seized on it.
Critical race theory teaches that America is an evil country and that you are part of this oppression from the moment you're born. I will not allow federal taxpayer dollars to be used to spread anti-American propaganda.
But that claim is false, the theory's founders and others say.
They use the umbrella term of critical race theory to describe basically anything that challenges conservative viewpoints on, race and racism in America's history. They could be talking about anything from the New York Times' 1619 Project to K through 12 schools daring to teach students justifiably that, in fact, some of our founding fathers owned slaves.
Yet since former President Donald Trump left office, a slew of red states led by ambitious GOP politicians have picked up the torch he put down.
Let me be clear, there's no room in our classrooms for things like critical race theory.
That was Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, widely believed to be a 2024 presidential hopeful. And the issue has also taken hold in Oklahoma, which just days ago marked 100 years since one of the deadliest race massacres in American history occurred in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
As governor, I will not stand for publicly funded K through 12 schools training impressionable minds to define themselves by their sex or their race.
The state's Republican governor, Kevin Stitt, was removed from the Massacres Centennial Commission after he signed a bill banning schools from teaching certain concepts about race. At a time when Republicans are raging against cancel culture on social media, there has been no such outrage against bans on teaching history that they believe is un-American.
This is cancel culture in reverse. If a teacher is acknowledging that, America does in some ways have a racist past, conservatives are so threatened by this that they are the ones melting down.
All right. Hope you got something from that. Did anybody pick some stuff up they didn't know about? The first thing that jumped out to me is that the First Lady, in the first few seconds, I almost stopped it, but I don't want to give YouTube a chance to stop my stream because I'm playing a clip. But I wanted to, I wonder if you noticed that the lady that was crying on the microphone at the very beginning, who was saying, just because I don't want my child to learn critical race theory doesn't mean I'm racist. Damn it. That lady, folks, is the problem with America. And that's the problem with white women. It is. And the problem with white men. And the problem with some black folks too that are dumb too. Who listen, hear me out, this is the thing. And Latino, Asian, Native American, anyone who thinks like this, but particularly white people, here's the thing. Actually, I'm not even gonna put everybody in this. What am I talking about? This is a white problem, Tim. Listen. It ain't about you. It ain't about you, lady. It's about history. It's not about your feelings. It's about history. It's not about your guilt. It's about facts. History don't give a damn about your feelings. It's like gravity. Step your ass off the cliff. The ground don't give a damn about your feelings, Johnson. That's history. Walk your ass in front of a semi-truck or a train. The train doesn't give a damn about your feelings, Johnson. Whether you intentionally are trying to leave this earth, this existence, and see what else is out there, or if you did it because somebody drugged you or pushed you. All it knows is, bam! That's history, white lady. The whole thing about critical race theory is this is it. Now, I'm looking forward to bringing on someone like Arami Osinfrimpong on the show, get my man Arami to come on. He's been on here before to break this down because he's done some excellent work on this. But here's it in a nutshell in a layman's perspective. Critical race theory is nothing more than black people and indigenous people, their history being taught honestly. That's it. That's it. It's not no, all the other stuff Ron DeSantis is saying, nonsense. They can't even cite actual critical race theory by the people that created the idea back in the 70s, who coined it. They can't even cite what the problem is they have with it. They just throw it all together and lump it together as saying it makes white people feel bad about themselves. It makes Americans feel bad about itself. Here's a couple notes I made. I just want to share these with you. The worst thing about denying critical race theory, these people that want to deny critical race theory being taught in schools, they're doing a disservice not just to black people, but to white people as well. I'm going to talk from a black man's perspective because I am a black man rooted in that perspective. Black wife, black kids, black house, black neighborhood, raised that way entire life. We'll start having conversations with real black people who are black people who live a black existence, whose lives are rooted in blackness and aren't afraid to lose subscribers or friends because we care about black shit. We want to end the black genocide and black death and get black reparations. So that's why you watch this show, because there ain't nobody else doing it, okay? Here's the thing. Critical race theory is important, not just because of black folks, it's important for white folks too, because how are we ever going to get to a place that people keep talking about they say that we're at? See, if you really want to get to this place where we are all understanding and we're not divided, we have to have conversations that are uncomfortable and the truth must come out. Part of the reason why we're so divided is that white people don't understand black people. And part of the reason they don't understand black people is that they don't know nothing. How can you understand something you don't understand or you don't know about? Because you're not being exposed to it, because you don't know. So this is the problem. White people will continue to remain oblivious to the condition of black people in America, and they will continue not to understand context. The lack of context creates lots of problems in the society. And people walk up and they see you walking funny. Somebody walks up and they see you walking funny. And they start assuming why you're walking funny. Somebody think you're walking funny because you just got chased by a police dog who bit you because you were stealing something. But in reality, you're walking funny because someone stole your shoes. And a cop beat you unnecessarily when he saw you. Or you were grabbed by some skinheads or some racists, some good old boys who jumped you. See, America continues to allow its children, its white children, not to know anything about race, not to understand the context of why black people are in the condition they're in, and that's part of the reason why they contribute or attribute our situation to a fault of ours. Because here's the thing, guys. Most kids don't really know. They don't really know they don't know history. They just know what they see. And what they're told is, we're all the same, everything's the same. We had a little hiccup back in the 1700s, but we ironed that out back in the 1800s. Now, if everybody just works really hard, if blacks work just as hard as whites, they'll be fine. This creates a problem. First of all, it's not true. Second of all, it erases all the context of everything. Denies reality. How can you have a real relationship with people? Or how can people have a relationship amongst themselves or with one another if one side or one group is totally oblivious to the reality of the other group? So that's one reason why critical race theory is important. The divide continues due to the lack of understanding. It will continue into the future. So right now, part of the problem is people condescend to black folks. They don't really know why black people are where they are, how they got there, and all they go is they feel sorry for them. This is part of the liberal framing. Liberal framing is, I feel bad for blacks, I feel so bad. It's like a paternalistic bullshit. I don't need you to be my mama or my daddy. I need you to give me some equity. Understand what I'm saying? Equity. We need America to give us equity. We don't need parents. We need equity. We don't need you to mother us, father us, or browbeat us, or lord over us. We're not your slaves. We're not owned by you. We don't need that. None of this paternalistic nonsense. What we need is equity. Critical race theory. 3, black kids. Now, this is the most important reason for black folks why this is important. Critical race theory is important for black kids. You understand this? White allies understand this. This is why. Because there's nothing more traumatizing for a black kid not to understand why they're not getting hit in this country. And turn that onto themselves. To wonder, what's wrong with me? Why aren't I succeeding? Why didn't I get the call back? I must work harder. What am I doing wrong? Imagine spending your time, your life, questioning yourself repeatedly because you don't understand race. You don't understand the reality of race. You don't understand the reality of institutional racism because you were never taught it. Instead, you think something's wrong with your neighbors, something's wrong with your parents. You blame all the black people for their condition because you don't understand this was created systemically in this country, step by step by step, brick by brick by brick. South Africa, if we lived in South Africa, you'd understand it. If you look over at South Africa, you say, yeah, they had apartheid. Well, you know where they learned it at? Here. They studied us to create their system of impropriety. Their caste system was imported from us because we did such a good job of it. Critical race theory is important because it removes the veil and gives us an opportunity, gives black children the reality check they need. So think about it this way. Not only are we not going to end racism, not only are we not going to tear down the structures that inhibit black folks, that stop the obstacles in the path of black folks, we're not even going to allow them to be educated to what's going on. We're going to let them walk around in a bubble in their own minds thinking everything's okay. Those sheltered black kids who parents, in my opinion, wrongly let their kids think that everything's hunky-dory, and then they get smacked with reality. We call it a black check. Everyone knows when you get your nigger check. It's something that's talked about in the black community all the time. You're going to get your nigger moment. You shouldn't have to wait to get that. You should already know that's coming. You should already know that exists everywhere in America. It's reality. It's not because you're a nice guy. Doesn't matter if you're a nice guy. Don't matter if you're a nice lady. Doesn't even matter if you're cool. Doesn't matter if you wear a suit. Doesn't matter if you wear a tie. Doesn't matter if you wear 3 belts and suspenders. Your butt is never shown. Your underwear never see the light of day unless you're never, ever. That does not change the way you are seen by some in this country. And that's a travesty not to let that be known. That creates depression. Damn it, I think it could create a mental hurdle to constantly question one's own self, to constantly question, why am I good enough? Why am I succeeding? Why didn't I get that call back on that job? You know how that feels? Well, once you understand the black taxes you pay, once you understand critical race theory, once you get it, now you get it. And also what can happen, if the goal is not to make white people feel bad. Maybe the goal is to change how white people look at America, to change America, to change it. But these people don't want to change it. They don't want it to get better. They're fine with us being stuck to the bottom with crazy glue. And occasionally someone flips a quarter at you and wishes you a good day. That's the Democratic Party. The Republican Party just steps over you, blames you for laying there. You put the glue on the ground, asshole. And whenever a particular Negro is chosen by a white corporation or white business entity and allows and chooses a black person and elevates them and gives them money and status, all they do is use it. All these people do is use it to say, see, look at LeBron. He made it. Yeah, 1 out of 10 million LeBron. What does that say about everybody else? So that's why critical race theory is important. Critical race theory is not about you. It's not about your feelings. That's the problem with whiteness. You think everything is yours and everything is about you when it's not. Case in point, the N-word. Imagine the audacity to think you get to call people whatever you want, that they can't have a word or a phrase or something. Look, I want it for a second. Let's couch the whole controversy if the word should ever be used in that. It's being used. That's the reality. Let's, for a second, step away from the moral dilemma that black people face when we say, hey, black people say you shouldn't use the word either. Fine. Let's move that off the table. I'm talking about those people who don't listen to that, which is like 95% of all comedians and rappers. So let's pretend that's off the table. Imagine living in a world where you think you have a psychosis of the brain, where you think you should be able to use another ethnic group's private word that they use amongst themselves, and then argue with them about your ability to use it. Why can't I use it? I'm white. I get to do whatever I want. I have never, ever in a day of my life, I never felt like I should be given a pass to say a Filipino word. There's got to be a word that Filipinos call themselves that they share this cultural, that's theirs. I would never feel that it's my right to demand to be able to say it. There's got to be a word that Koreans use. I don't know it because I'm not Korean, but there's got to be some things that Koreans say to each other quietly amongst Koreans that's none of my damn business. Same thing goes for Japanese, probably Vietnamese, Taiwanese. Hell, there's probably some Jewish folks out there with words I don't know that are privy, that are culturally connected to themselves, that is their own thing. That's none of my damn business. Critical race theory is important because maybe then people realize you're not the only person in America that matters. Other people matter. And that's exactly why they don't want you to teach it. That's exactly why they want to shut it down. Because, first of all, America's so racist, there's a lot of goofy conservatives that want to shut it down because they don't want their children to know how bad America is. Because they don't want to fix it because it's working for them. As long as it's working for them, they can care less about it working for anybody else. What they want you to do is shut up and suffer quietly. They don't want to end our suffering. They don't want to end us being marginalized. They don't want to end the racial wealth gap. They don't want to end us having less than 10% of the wealth of them. They just want us to shut up about it. Suffer quieter. Be quieter when you're complaining. They're even outlawing protesting now. We don't even want to hear you complain, Negro. If you got to complain, go complain at home. Don't complain in the street. I got work to do. I have a job. Won't you get one? You won't hire me. Whose fault is that? Yours. when you ask them what the problem they have with critical race theory, they say, well, critical race theory shouldn't be taught because it separates, it makes them define themselves by sex and race. That's what that governor said, that former governor or mayor, I don't know, somebody from Florida, some goofy guy on the clip. Oh, really? Let me get this right. America spent, as long as there's been black people in America, America's been defining us by our race. And now here comes along Howdy Doody looking mofo trying to tell us you don't want critical race theory because it makes children define themselves by their race. What he means is it makes white people define themselves by their race because they've been defining us by our race since day one. And if we're talking about black women, you've been defining them by their sex and their race since day one. 2 times. Another thing they don't want you to know about. So critical race theory in a nutshell exposes the true snowflakes. And as usual, they're on the right. So as you point out all the liberal nonsense that I do, that I point out the liberal nonsense constantly. Don't hide behind conservative bullshit. Realize there's nowhere to go. No Joe. And both parties sucks. And racist people suck. Accept it. We're surrounded on all sides. And the only way we have a chance is together. But truth must lead the way. Not denial, and not living in fantasy land. All right. Thank you, Johnsons.